Hello friends, this is Ajit, third year medical student from Government Thoothukudi Medical College. In last lecture, we have seen the normal regulation of acid-base balance. In this session, we are going to discuss about the acid-base disorders. It is very very important, guys. Not only for our university exam purpose, it is also important for our lifetime purpose. Because in ICU patient, you need to see the arterial blood gas values and you have to diagnose what whether it is a metabolic acidosis or alkalosis or respiratory cause. So we should know about something about the acid base balance disorders. So let us move on to the topic. Okay. Um, Before entering into the topic, I will be dealing with the four disorders, and finally we will have some case histories, and finally we will have some of. First, um, there is a acid base imbalance in our body. Okay, yesterday we have seen about the acid base regulation. Now there is a acidosis in our body. How our body will regulate it? Let us see. In case of acidosis, there will be the increased H plus ion concentration. This increased H plus ion concentrated, it will be first immediately buffered by the chemical buffers which is present in the blood and plasma. Okay, it will try to buffer to some extent. Then the next system which is involved is respiratory system. Okay, if there is increased H plus, it will favor the formation of carbonic acid by binding to the bicarbonate, which is given from the alkali reserve. So once this H plus ion and the bicarbonate associates, they forms carbonic acid. This carbonic acid is taken to the lungs where it breaks down into carbon dioxide and water, which will be expelled through the lungs. Okay, and some amount of H plus is also regulated by renal. It is a very important mechanism we have seen yesterday. So by this manner, our body responds to the acidosis. Next, how our body responds to alkalosis. Okay, in alkalosis, what happens is uh, there will be buildup of the uh, bicarbs. Okay, so what happens is this H2 is carbonic acid. Okay, this carbonic acid in our body, they breaks down into H plus and bicarbonate, and this H plus will be stored in our body. So as there is a favoring of the H2CO3 formation, there will be decreased respiration. That is the respiratory control. You will see in detail. Actually, there are four acid-base disorders. Broadly, we can classify it as acidosis and alkalosis. In acidosis, metabolic acidosis and respiratory acidosis, and among alkalosis, metabolic alkalosis and respiratory alkalosis. This metabolic alkalosis is due to decrease in bicarbonate. Okay, as there is a primary deficit is bicarbonate, so it is called as metabolic cause. Okay, as there is a increased in carbonic acid, that is H2CO3, it is a respiratory cause. Okay, then in metabolic alkalosis, there will be increase in the bicarbonate. The primary problem is excess bicarbonate, whereas in respiratory alkalosis, there will be decreased carbonic acid. Okay, so this is about the introduction regarding the four acid-base disorders. We will see one by one. First, I will go to metabolic acidosis. Before going, let us see some concept. Uh, Primary disorder, primary mechanism. What are the compensatory mechanism happens? What is the compensatory response? If you take metabolic acidosis, the primary problem is decrease in the bicarb. Okay, so the compensatory mechanism will be done by the respiratory system. If the primary problem is metabolic, the compensatory will be done by respiratory. If the primary is respiratory, compensatory will be metabolic. Okay, so there is decrease in bicarb, so there will be in relation more H pluses in our body relatively. So to exit that, this lungs will hyperventilate, so that there will be decrease in the partial pressure of carbon dioxide, which indicates H plus also decrease. So this is about the compensatory mechanism in metabolic acidosis. If you take metabolic alkalosis, what we have seen in metabolic alkalosis, there will be increased bicarbonate. Okay, so increased bicarbonate, our body tries to neutralize by binding of H plus to the bicarbonate to form more carbonic acid. Okay, so it is done by hypoventilation. If our body does not stimulate the respiratory center, there will be hyperventilation. So there will be more favorable formation of the H2CO3. So there will be increased partial pressure of the carbon dioxide. So this is about the compensatory mechanism in metabolic alkalosis. Then respiratory acidosis. In respiratory acidosis, the causes of telling respiratory. So the problem is increased partial pressure of the carbon dioxide. Okay, it will be compensated by the renal reabsorption of bicarbonate. Okay, so as a response in our body, bicarbonate will be increased. Then in respiratory alkalosis, there will be decrease in the partial pressure of carbon dioxide. So it is compensated by the decreased bicarb reabsorption. So the compensatory response will be decreased bicarb in our body. So this is about the just outline for the compensatory mechanisms. Okay, we will deal one by one. First, metabolic acidosis. This metabolic acidosis is due to primary deficit in the bicarbonate. Okay, it may be due to accumulation of acids or depletion of bicarbonate. Okay, when there is excess acid production, bicarbonate are used for the buffering. Okay, so only metabolic acidosis happens. We are dividing this metabolic acidosis based on a condition terminology known as anion gap. Okay, before going to the classification, we should know first what is anion gap. Okay, anion gap is nothing but it is the literal formula for the anion gap will be unmeasured anions minus unmeasured cations. Okay, what is the meaning of unmeasured? Unmeasured means these are the ions which is present in our body in very, very low concentration. In normal conditions, these are the ions or cations which are present in very, very low conditions. So they are named as unmeasured anions and unmeasured cations. Okay, let us see what is that anion gap. In normal physiological body, the total anions which is present in our body is equal to total cations. So then only our body will be electroneutral and it will be good for our body. Okay, let us dissect this term. What does this total anions and total cation means? Total anion means measurable anions plus unmeasurable anions, and this total cations includes measurable cation and unmeasurable cation. This is the dissected formula of the this form. Total anion is equal to total cations. What are the measurable anions in our body? These are the anions which is present in abundant quantity so that we can measure in our body. Those are the bicarbs and chloride. Okay, unmeasured ion we will see. What are the measurable cation? Okay, measurable cation is sodium. Remember, potassium is not present in extracellular fluid, so I mean not in large amount. So we will consider only sodium as a measurable cation here. Okay, so bringing those unmeasurable on one side and measurable on one side, we can get the formula for anion gap. If we take unmeasurable on one side, that is unmeasurable anion anions and cations on one side, and this sodium is present here. When this go that side, it becomes minus. So the formula for the anion gap will be concentration of the sodium minus sum of the concentration of the bicarb and chloride. Okay, remember guys, this anion gap is measured in terms of millimoles per liter or milli equivalents per liter. We have so far seen this is the formula. You can ask what is that unmeasurable anion and what is that unmeasurable cation. What these are the some unmeasurable anions like acetate, acetoacetate, beta hydroxybutyrate, lactate, salicylate, oxalate, formates, albumin. These are the unmeasurable anions. We cannot measure in terms of millimoles per liter. It is very, very important. You can, and also unmeasurable cations includes magnesium, calcium, potassium, lithium, and positively charged immunoglobulins. You can ask, bro, we can measure the serum calcium level now. Then why are you saying it as a unmeasurable cation? I have said this anion gap is measured in millimoles per liter. Okay, but we are measuring the calcium in milligram per deciliter. Okay, if you take this calcium will have 9 to 11 milligram per deciliter. First, we have to convert this conversion to millimoles per liter. If we convert, this value becomes 2.15 to 2.5 millimoles per liter. Okay, so about 2.15 to 2.5 millimoles per liter of the calcium is present in our body, but not all the 100% of the calcium is a ionized form. Some are protein bound. Only about 50%, 50% of the calcium is available in ionized form. So if we again divided it, so about only 1 to 1.25 millimoles per liter will be the levels of the ionized calcium. Okay, if you consider what is the measurable cation here, sodium. So what is the sodium value? It will be around 135. So compare the 135 to 1 millimoles per liter. So only we are not considering this calcium, magnesium, same way for the albumin as a unmeasurable ions. Okay, so simply anion gap is referred to as unmeasured anions, which is the formula having sodium minus sum of the concentration of the bicarbonate and the chloride. So this is about the anion gap, and this anion gap normal value will be 12 plus or minus 2. Okay, 12 plus or minus 2 millimoles per liter. So this is about the anion gap. So based on this anion gap, metabolic acidosis of two types. One is high anion gap metabolic acidosis. Another one is normal anion gap metabolic acidosis. First, we will see high anion gap metabolic acidosis. In high anion gap metabolic acidosis, there will be increased anion gap and also acidosis. Okay, for example, if you take lactic acidosis, okay, it is one among the high anion gap metabolic acidosis. What happens in lactic acidosis? There will be increased lactic acid buildup in our body. Okay, whenever there is an increase in acid, our body buffers like bicarbonate buffers or the chemical buffers, which come immediately to compensate the acid, that is to neutralize the acid. Okay, these bicarbonates are used to neutralize the lactic acid. After the neutralization, it converts into lactate. Okay, we have seen this lactate is also a unmeasured anion. Okay, and this unmeasured anion increases. Okay, if the unmeasured anion increases, what happens to the anion gap? It will increase, so it causes high anion gap. And also there is bicarbonate deficiency. This bicarbonate deficiency causes the metabolic acidosis. Okay, so we get high anion gap metabolic acidosis. So causes will be uh, like ketoacidosis, lactic acidosis, renal failure, and some drugs also causes the high anion gap metabolism like salicylate overdose and methanol and ethylene glycol poisoning. It is very important, guys. This methanol, when it is taken in larger amounts, it gets metabolized into a chemical known as formic acid. This formic acid is again a unmeasured anion. And ethylene glycol, it is a antifreezer molecule which is present in the vehicles. If a person drinks this ethylene glycol, okay, this also has a same property what the alcohol does. So some persons will taking ethylene glycol also. If ethylene glycol is taken, this ethylene glycol will metabolize into oxalic acid. This oxalic acid is again a unmeasured anion. So these are the basic cause of the high anion gap metabolic acidosis. Now we are going to say about the ketoacidosis and the lactic acidosis in detail. If you take ketoacidosis, there are three important causes of the ketoacidosis development. Okay, acidosis plus keto. So increase in ketone bodies and acidosis also there. What are the three causes? One is diabetic ketoacidosis, another one is starvation ketoacidosis, and third one is alcoholic ketoacidosis. If you take diabetic ketoacidosis, the cause will be the uncontrolled type 1 diabetes mellitus. In uncontrolled type 1 diabetes mellitus, there will be increased ketone synthesis. Whereas if you see the starvation ketoacidosis, the patient or a person who is undergoing a prolonged starvation. Okay, if there is a prolonged starvation, there will be a stimulus to the liver to produce glucose, that is gluconeogenesis. Okay, if there is increased gluconeogenesis, there are also formation of increased ketone synthesis. So only they get starvation ketoacidosis. Not only glucose increases, also ketone also increases, because ketone also serves as a fuel for some organs. Then in case of alcoholic ketoacidosis, this alcohol gets converted into aldehyde. This aldehyde can be converted into ketones. So we can get alcoholic ketoacidosis in case of alcoholic patients. Okay. Then what will be the difference in these three conditions? That if you see the blood sugar, this diabetic ketoacidosis, it is mainly due to uncontrolled. So the blood sugar will be elevated. But in case of starvation ketoacidosis, the blood sugar will be normal. Okay, and in case of alcoholic ketoacidosis, the blood sugar will be low. Okay, because these patients they take alcohol in large amounts, it will damage the liver, so the liver may not function properly, so the gluconeogenesis is not proper, so they may have low glucose in blood. Okay, then serum ketones, mainly we in serum we measure beta hydroxy butyrate. It is one of the ketone body. It will be positive in all the three cases. And if we take urine ketones, in urine ketones, we will measure acetoacetate. It is also again positive for all the findings, all the three conditions. But this urine ketone, it is not a reliable one, because I have said that this in urine ketones we are measuring acetoacetate, which is produced from the beta hydroxy butyrate only. Okay, approximately it takes 6 hours for the conversion of the beta hydroxybutyrate to acetoacetate. If a patient comes before the conversion, we may get false negative. And also this acetoacetate, once formed, it can stay up to 12 hours in our body. Okay, if the patient is stabilized, after that also for 12 hours it will be present in our body, so it may also produce false positive. So only we are not considering urine ketones as a reliable one. Then regarding treatment, this diabetic ketoacidosis, we have to supply large number of IV fluids to control the metabolic acidosis, and insulin for the diabetic condition. And generally insulin causes hypokalemia, so we have to supplement potassium. Then in case of starvation ketoacidosis, we have to supply dextrose. In alcoholic ketoacidosis, same dextrose, but remind alcoholic patient will be having thiamine deficiency, so we have to supplement thiamine also. So this is about the uh, ketoacidosis. Then second important condition is lactic acidosis. This lactic acidosis is mainly of two etiology. One is increased lactic acid production or decreased lactic acid catabolism. When we can have increased synthesis, it is seen only in anaerobic conditions. Okay, when we will have that anaerobic condition, such type of lactic acidosis is called as type A lactic acidosis. It is seen in anaerobic conditions. When we will have anaerobic condition, in case of hypoperfusion, this hypoperfusion leads to circulatory shock and cardiogenic shock. Okay, hypovolemic shock and cardiogenic shock. So we will have deficient in the blood supply. Okay, then also in case of severe anemia. Okay, and in also in case of carbon monoxide and cyanide poisoning. In these two cases, oxygen is not supplied to the tissues. So we will have anaerobic like condition. So it leads to type A lactic acidosis. We can also have lactic acidosis due to decreased catabolism. Okay, it is referred to as type B lactic acidosis. The causes may be liver and renal failure, and some drugs like importantly metformin. You should not forget this metformin also causes lactic acidosis. Okay, then isoniazid, it is an anti-tubercular drug, and zidovudine is an antiretroviral drug. So this is about the lactic acidosis. Now we have seen the high anion gap metabolic acidosis. Now we are going to see about normal anion gap metabolic acidosis. So here the anion gap will be normal. So there is no problem in anion gap. But we have metabolic acidosis only. Okay, so it's termed as normal anion gap metabolic acidosis. It is due to increased bicarbonate loss or increased retention of the H plus ions in our body. The causes is like bicarbonate losing diarrhea. It is very, very important, guys. Not a simple diarrhea. It is a bicarbonate losing diarrhea. And also magnesium containing antacids. It is very important to know. What happens is if it is an intestine, this is a pancreas. This pancreas releases bicarbonate. Okay, this bicarbonate along with the pancreatic enzymes, they are released into the intestine. After moving further, this bicarbonate is absorbed back into our body for the reserve. Okay, if you are giving magnesium containing antacids, okay, if you are giving this magnesium containing antacids, what does it is? this magnesium, they catches the bicarbonate and excrete as a magnesium bicarbonate. Okay, so there will be deficiency in the bicarbonate in our body. Okay, so we should not give magnesium in case of metabolic acidosis. Okay, then also renal failure and also renal tubular acidosis. What happens in these two conditions? In these two conditions, the tubular function of the nephron will be lost, so there will be no secretion of the H plus, so there will be increased retention of the bicarbonate ions. Okay, then last one is some drugs which causes hyperkalemia. Kalemia means increase in the potassium levels. Emia means blood. So in blood, increased H plus, K plus concentration. Let us consider this is a blood column and this is a cell. If a patient is taking some drugs like this ACE inhibitors, that is angiotensin convertase enzyme inhibitors, or ARBs, or potassium sparing diuretics, these all drugs, they causes the increased potassium levels in the blood column. Okay, this increased potassium is very dangerous for the heart because it can causes arrhythmia. So to prevent that, what our body does is this potassium is taken by the cell. In that, for that exchange, more number of H plus ions is secreted into the blood. So in now blood we have more H plus concentration. So it accounts for the metabolic acidosis. So this is about the normal anion gap metabolic acidosis. Then we are coming for the metabolic alkalosis. Second condition, metabolic alkalosis. This metabolic alkalosis is basically of two types. One is chloride responsive, another one is chloride resistant. Okay. Actually, what is the main pathology in this chloride responsive is there is increased loss of the chloride. Okay. For example, if you take vomiting, vomiting, what we vomit mainly our HCl. Our HCl contains more chloride. It is lost in our body, and also low chloride intake and some of the chloride loss in diarrheas. And in case of cystic fibrosis, we will lose more chloride in the form of sweat. So due to there is loss of chloride, there will be compensatory increased reabsorption of the bicarbonate. Okay, so only it is called as chloride responsive. If this patient we give chloride, there will be no bicarbonate reabsorption. So it will be response to our chloride treatment. So it is called as chloride responsive. So examples are vomiting and low chloride intake, then chloride losing diarrhea, then cystic fibrosis. These are the some examples for chloride responsive metabolic alkalosis. If you take another side, the problem is not with the chloride. The problem is for, with another side. Okay. So even if we supplement the chloride, it is not getting response. So it's called as chloride resistant. Example, very important example is hyperaldosteronism. Okay, and we will see that hyperaldosteronism, that Liddle syndrome, diuretics, we will see in the next page. Now, this is the mechanism I'm going to tell about the chloride resistant metabolic alkalosis. What happens is this red molecule is nothing but it is a aldosterone. Okay, whenever this aldosterone is getting secreted, this aldosterone they goes and bind to the mineralocorticoid receptor. Okay, this mineralocorticoid receptor is present in the principal cells of the collecting duct. Whenever this receptor is getting stimulated, it favors the expression of a channel known as ENaC, nothing but epithelial sodium channels. So there will be increased sodium reabsorption. Okay, as there is increased sodium reabsorption, there will be a formation of negative charge in the luminal side. Okay, increased negative charge. To compensate this increased negative charge, our principal cells they secrete a more number of H plus and K plus into the lumen, which is lost through the urine. Okay, so this is a mechanism. We have seen hyperaldosteronism. In hyperaldosteronism, there will be increased secretion of the aldosterone. Okay, and we have seen some other condition like renin tumors. These are the tumors which produces aldosterone. Okay, so there will be activity like this. And another one important we have seen, that is Liddle syndrome. Okay, Liddle syndrome is very important, guys. You will be dealing it with the renal physiology. What is Liddle syndrome? There will be a mutation in the ENaC channels. Okay, actually this channel once it is expressed, after some time being it will be degraded. Okay, the factors which are needed for its degradation, it's getting mutated. So this ENaC will be persist for more time, and there will be more sodium reabsorption, and it will leads to more negative charges, and there will be loss of more H plus ion. So it causes metabolic alkalosis. That is chloride resistant metabolic alkalosis. Next, we are going to see about respiratory acidosis. In respiratory acidosis, the primary problem is excess carbonic acid. Okay, because there is hypoventilation. Due to hypoventilation, there will be more carbon dioxide retention in our body. So as there is more carbon dioxide retention in our body, there will be buildup of more carbonic acid. So it causes respiratory acidosis. Okay, causes will be, we can tell in a like this manner. If there is a problem with the respiratory center level, it can be due to morphine toxicity. Remember, guys, morphine toxicity, they directly inhibits the respiratory center and causes respiratory acidosis. If there is an inhibition of the respiratory center, the respiratory center will not give the stimulus for the ventilation. So there will be hyperventilation, so respiratory acidosis. Not only morphine, some of the benzodiazepine drugs, and also in stroke. In stroke, what happens is there will be decreased blood supply. In that condition also we can get respiratory acidosis. And also if you take lesion at the level of spinal cord, if there is a spinal cord damage at the level of C3, okay, maybe due to trauma or polio, in that time also we can get a respiratory acidosis. Then at the level of neuromuscular junctions, in case of myasthenia gravis and Lambert-Eaton syndrome, and we have diaphragm muscles, which is very, very important for the respiration. Okay, if the lesion is at the level of muscles, like we can get in Duchenne muscular dystrophy. Okay, the muscle will not be working properly, so they will get respiratory acidosis. And also chest wall abnormalities. Chest wall expansion is very important for the normal respiration. If the chest wall is not expanding normally, it will also cause respiratory acidosis, like ankylosing spondylitis, and very importantly, kyphoscoliosis, and very, very important is extreme obese. Okay, these are mostly they go unseen by many patients and even many doctors, because extreme obese means there will be buildup of more fat above the chest wall. So the chest wall feels very difficult to expand. Okay, then airway and lung abnormalities includes COPD. In COPD patient also they will get a very difficulty for respiration. So they get respiratory acidosis. Next, we are going to say about respiratory alkalosis. Here, the primary problem is with the carbonic acid. Okay, there will be primary deficit of the carbonic acid due to excess loss of the carbon dioxide. It is due to hyperventilation. If the patient is hyperventilate, more carbon dioxide will be expired out, so there will be deficient of the carbonic acid. Okay, the causes will be the most common causes anxiety and fear, and sometimes hyperventilation. If we go for the high altitude, we will automatically hyperventilate. So these are the some most common causes for the respiratory alkalosis. Okay, now we have came to our important session, that is we are going to see about the ABG analysis. Okay, before going into the analysis, I want you guys to see the important rules. One is history. We have to, if the history is provided, you have to look for the history, because many times history can give you answer. For example, if a patient like COPD patient is presenting, means we can also we can determine that okay, he may be having that respiratory acidosis, like that. If it is a renal failure, you can think there will be some metabolic causes, like that. History is very important. And pH value, next important thing is you have to look upon the pH value. Okay, if normal pH value is 7.35 to 7.45. Okay, if it is going less than 7.35, it is called as acidosis. If it is more than 7.45, it is termed as alkalosis. Okay, and we have to look the direction of the partial pressure of carbon dioxide and the pH. Okay, this partial pressure of carbon dioxide normal value is 35 to 45 mmHg. Okay, sorry for the worst handwriting, guys. You have to look for the direction of the PCO2 and the pH. If it is same direction, like for example, I'm taking pH is 7. if pH is 7.10, okay, and the partial percent of carbon dioxide is 20, okay, what happens? Both are decreasing. If both are decreasing in the same direction, or if the both are increasing in same direction, the primary disorder will be metabolic. Okay, if it is if it is changing in opposite, means the primary disorder is respiratory. Okay, so fix in the mind, same direction metabolic, opposite direction respiratory. Okay, then final one, look for the compensatory response. Okay, I will tell about the compensatory response. This is the for first metabolic acidosis. What is the compensatory? What will be in metabolic acidosis? There will be deficient in bicarb, so there will be decrease in PaCO2 also. Okay, that is a normal thing. So we have to calculate the expected PCaO2 decrease. Okay, for that we have having a formula known as Winter's formula. This is nothing but 1.5 into given bicarbonate level plus 8. Okay, this is the Winter's formula, and finally we have to add plus or minus 2 for range. To get a range, we have to do plus or minus 2. This is for the expected PaCO2. Okay, and or else you can remember that in metabolic acidosis there will be decrease in the bicarb, right? So for every one one millimoles per liter decrease in the bicarbonate, there will be decrease in 1 mmHg of carbon dioxide. So this is the compensation in metabolic acidosis. Okay, if you take metabolic alkalosis, in metabolic alkalosis, consider this. Okay, take this one. What will happen in metabolic alkalosis? There will be increase in bicarb. Okay, so for every 10 millimoles per liter increase in bicarbonate, there will be increase in 6 mmHg partial percent of carbon dioxide. So this is the compensation in case of metabolic alkalosis. Okay, but regarding respiratory causes, this compensation they depends upon the presentation of the patient. Okay, that is if it is acute, there will be one sort of compensation, and it is chronic, there will be another sort. First we consider respiratory alkalosis. In respiratory alkalosis, what is the problem? The problem is with the partial pressure of the carbon dioxide. Okay, so for every 10 mmHg decrease in the partial pressure of carbon dioxide, there will be decrease in 2 millimoles per liter of the HCO3. Okay, and for chronic, for every 10 milligram Hg decrease in the partial pressure of carbon dioxide, there will be decrease of 4 millimoles per liter of the bicarbonate. Okay, for respiratory acidosis, if it is acute, for increase in 10 mmHg carbon dioxide, there will be increase of 1 millimoles per liter of bicarbonate. For chronic respiratory acidosis, for every 10 milligram Hg rise in PaCO2, there will be increase of 10 millimoles per liter of bicarbonate. Okay, to make it simple, I'll be writing here. This is bicarbonate change, and this is partial pressure of the carbon dioxide. Okay, partial pressure of carbon dioxide, it is fixed. Okay, I will write here. If it in case of acute respiratory alkalosis, for acute respiratory alkalosis, there will be decrease in the 10 mmHg of the carbon dioxide. So we should have about 2 millimoles per liter of bicarbonate decrease. Okay, if you take the chronic, again for that 10 decrease of carbon dioxide, we should have decrease in 4 millimoles per liter of the bicarbonate. Okay, this is for the respiratory alkalosis. If we take respiratory acidosis, for acute cases, for increase in 10 mmHg of the partial pressure of carbon dioxide, we should have increase of the 1 millimoles per liter of bicarbonate. And if we consider for chronic, for every 10 increase of the carbonic acid, we should have increase of bicarbonate by 4 increase. So this is the simplified form of the compensation. So keeping on this mind, now we are going to solve some of the problems. Okay, see this question. And ABG analysis shows the following report. Give your probable diagnosis. pH is given, partial of carbon is given, bicarbonate is given. No history is given, so we can go for a pH level. pH level is 7.30. Normal level is 7.35 to 7.45. Right? It is lesser than the normal value. So it indicates it is a acidosis. Okay, it is a acidosis. Okay, then look for the partial percent of carbon dioxide. It is 26. What is the normal limit? Normal limit is 35 to 45. It is the normal value of the partial percent of carbon dioxide. So it is also decreasing. So see the direction of this, both pH and pH is decreasing and partial percent of carbon dioxide also decreasing. So this indicates this case is having metabolic problem. So we have using the pH, we can say it is acidosis. So most probably it is a case of metabolic acidosis. But we should look for a compensation also. Okay. For the expected carbon dioxide decrease, we have a formula known as Winter's formula, right? What is the Winter's formula? It is 1.5 into given bicarbonate level. What is a given bicarbonate? It will be 12, then plus 8 plus or minus 2. Okay, you can write this also 3 by 2 for calculation purpose. Then I will cancel this. Then it will be around 24 to 28. Look in the question whether the CO2 is within this range or not. Yes, the given partial percent of carbon dioxide is within the levels of the expected PCO2. So we can diagnose this as metabolic acidosis with compensatory respiratory alkalosis. So only we are having this decrease. Okay, so it is perfectly compensated. Metabolic acidosis with compensation. Okay, so this is about this one. Regarding next case, and ABG shows the following report. pH is 7.50, carbon dioxide, that is partial percent of carbon dioxide is 48, and HCO3 is 35. Okay, now as there is no history is given, straightly we can go to the pH. If we go and see the pH, it is increased. So it is obviously it is a alkalosis. Okay, it is a case of alkalosis. Then look for the changes of the pH and CO2. pH is what? It is increasing. What about the PaCO2? PaCO2 normal value is what? 35 to 45. It is a normal range, but the given value is 48. So it is also increasing. So both are traveling in the same direction. So we can tell it is a metabolic cause. Probably we can tell it is a metabolic alkalosis. Okay, but we have to confirm this by doing the compensation. Okay, what will be the compensation for in case of metabolic alkalosis? For every 10 rise of the bicarbonate, we will have about increase of 6 or 7 by carbon dioxide rise in our body. Okay, in normal, if you take the normal body, 25 is the bicarbonate levels. Normal bicarbonate levels is 25. Okay, normal level is 25, but the question given is 35. Okay, how much it is increased? It is increased about 10 times. Okay, what is our rule is telling? If there is increase in 10 bicarbs, there should be increase in 6 or 7 mmHg of carbon dioxide in our body. So what is the normal partial percent of carbon dioxide? 40. Okay, what is the compensation to increase? Only 10 bicarb is increased, so we are going to add only 6 or 7. So if we add 6 or 7, it should be 46 or 47. Okay. If now go and check for the partial pressure of the carbonation given in the question. What does the question tells? It is 48. So 48, it is very, very close to the value we obtained from the calculation. So we can tell that this metabolic alkalosis, it is a case of metabolic alkalosis. It is a case of metabolic alkalosis with compensation. With compensation. Okay. So this is about this case. Okay. In this problem, it is given a 23-year-old medical student was admitted to the emergency OPD. So the presentation is acute. It is confirmed. Okay. He was accused of using morphine illegally. Okay. Not a history person. He is using morphine illegally. All the ABG analysis of him shows the following report. So now we are going to see the report. pH is given 7.15. So it is less than the normal limit. So we can tell that it is a acidosis. Okay, it is a case of acidosis. Then look for the change in the pH and the pH2. pH is decreasing, but look for the carbon dioxide. It is increasing. It is both for going in opposite direction. So it indicates it can be a respiratory cause. Okay, so the most probable diagnosis could be it is a respiratory acidosis. Okay, we have seen for every respiratory disorder component we have acute and chronic presentation, but the patient had consumed morphine and that morphine induced respiratory acidosis. It cannot be a chronic cause. Okay, it is mostly 99.99% it is a acute case only. Okay, for acute respiratory acidosis we have to look for the compensation. Okay, for acute respiratory acidosis, for every 10 mmHg rise of the carbon dioxide, there should be a 1 mm increase of the millimoles per liter of bicarbonate. So this is our compensation. Okay. Now we have to look. For every 10 increase in the carbon dioxide, there should be increase in 1 millimoles per liter of the bicarbonate. So what is the normal PaCO2? For calculation, we take 40. Okay. What is the question given? It is 70. Okay. How much change is there? Approximately, it is a 30 mmHg difference is there. For 10 mmHg increase, there should be 1 millimoles per rise. So here 3 times. So there should be increase of 3 millimoles per liter. 3 millimoles per liter plus normal. What is the normal bicarb we take for the question purpose? 25. Okay. So 25 plus 3, it will be 28. Okay. This 28 millimoles per liter should be compensated. So this should be the value given in your question. Always take it is in a range. If you take it a range, you can add plus or minus 2. If you take a range, it should be between 26 to 30. Now see the question we are having 30. So it is a classical example of acute respiratory acidosis with compensation. Okay, so this is about this question. By seeing the morphine itself, you can answer that it is a acute respiratory acidosis. So only we have to look for the history also. History also can give a clinch about our diagnosis. So this is about this case. I hope I have give some idea about the acid-base analysis. Then this is the format. First, we have to for a summary check arterial pH. If it is less than 7.35, it is acidemia. Then look for the PCO2. If it is more than the normal levels, it is a respiratory acidosis. it may be due to hyperventilation, that is airway obstruction, acute lung, that COPD, that opioids like that, and with respiratory muscle weaknesses. If acidemia and if we have bicarbonate more than 20, it can be metabolic acidosis. If it is a metabolic acidosis, you have to check for anion gap. These values will be provided in your question. Then if it is more than 12, it is a high anion gap metabolic acidosis. We have seen the conditions like diabetic ketoacidosis, starvation ketoacidosis, then alcoholic ketoacidosis, then lactic acidosis, ethylene glycol poisoning, methanol poisoning, salicylates. Okay, if the anion gap is normal, again it is a example. We can have that Addison's disease, okay, like in the hyperelimination, renal tuberculosis, diarrhea, like that. If the pH is more than 0.5, it is a case of alkalemia. If it is alkalemia, check for the PCO2. If it is less than the normal level, it is the respiratory alkalosis. It is due to hyperventilation. We can have hyperventilation like in case of anxiety or hypoxemia, that is high altitude cases, salicylates taken. Then in case of pulmonary embolism or the respiratory alkalosis. If they are having alkalemia and the bicarbonate level is more than the normal level, it is a metabolic alkalosis. Sorry, that is bicarbonate is present in excess. Okay, it is example for that vomiting, antacid uses, that hyperaldosteronism we have seen. So these are some examples for the metabolic alkalosis. So this is about the acid-base balance disorders. I hope I have given some amount of the information regarding acid-base disorder. Do read the topics again, guys. Thank you.